Here. All right, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Dr. Yarborough is going to be joining us later. And if our meeting is still going, he had a work issue that he is working on, and Ms. Rivera is no longer on the board. So it's just going to be me. But according to our bylaws, one member constitutes a quorum for this committee and can serve to move items to the full board. So we will go ahead and continue. And my understanding is that President Yarborough will be making his committee appointments for next week at the board meeting. So we'll be back to a full complement of people. So we'll go ahead and get started. As far as the information on the items, I did have a couple questions on some of these. Two are related to the CNC janitorial supplies, just because they're going back to September 30. I noticed that one looks like it's still connected to the continuing contract issues with the city on their paper supply vendor or their janitorial supply vendor. I'm just wondering, is there an update to that? It was also at the same vendor as one for the menstrual products, and just was wondering if that was connected to the other supply issues with the city contract. So I don't know if Mr. Aline is available for that.
Mr. Wilcox, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. The custodial supply contract is really being handled through the procurement office directly with purchasing departments. So they would have the greatest updates. But what I can tell you is that we're still waiting. I don't know where they are with the completion of the custodial paper products contract. I'm not sure where that is right now. So that's something that's that office will have to provide to you. In terms of the menstrual supply products, I do not believe they're associated with the same contract. But again, I'll have to find out from that department where we are with it.
Yeah, I'm just, at this time of year, I like to ask questions about anything with dates going back that far, just to see what the issue was. So thank you on that. The other one I had a question on is the agreement with Bonnie Pachessa, which is also going back to early September, early to mid-September. So I was wondering if somebody just could provide a reason for that.
Good afternoon, or good evening.
Hello.
This is Monica Joyner. That was, there was some confusion about the wording of the HDT grant. So this one got missed. I thought I could not put it through part-time payroll. So the agreement was written, but then it turns out that it should have been put through part-time payroll and it got missed. So normally this would have gone through part-time payroll. Somehow that process didn't happen the way it should have happened. And from what I understand, this is the time of the year that we discover things that get lost, and we're trying to rectify that particular situation.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious about that. And I mean, certainly know Ms. Pachessa. She was the principal when my kids were in elementary school for a fair amount of that. So that's, and I know she's worked with the district off and on in various capacities, part-time and by contract since her retirement. So I just thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We'll move right into the MOUs. There's an MOU with Yeshiva University. So this is Ms. Jackson or Ms. Jackson?
Ms. Jackson and Ms. Jackson are both here. But we'll start. It's just for an agreement with Yeshiva to get a graduate student. We're hoping that a graduate student who has a desire to work in the urban setting will stay with us, but essentially to get their hours between now and the end of the school year.
All right. Sounds lovely. I had no further questions, and I received no other questions before the meeting from committee members or board members. So thank you for that. We'll move on to agreements. There's one with Teach for America. So Ms. Flegler.
I'm actually going to have Ms. Booker, our new coordinator recruitment and retention, provide you an overview and update on the Teach for America contract that we will be hopefully going into agreement with. Ms. Booker?
Thank you, Ms. Booker, please. And welcome to Finance and Operations Committee meeting.
Thank you, BJ. You're on mute.
Okay, you'd think we get used to that by now. So this is a contract that we would like to enter in with Teach for America as a part of our recruitment and retention efforts, because they are going to then hopefully up to 9 core members, right? In our, sorry, nervous. They will recruit for us 9 core members in our high needs areas of special ed, math, and science. So they will do all of the recruiting. We'll be a part of the hiring process. We want to get this contract done now because we want to be part of the early hiring contract. And so when they have the best talent, pool of talent, we want to be make sure that we get, the best candidates for New Haven Public Schools. So with this contract, it's $7,500 per core member, but it's for 2 years. They will get credentials through TFA. They will also get on-the-job coaching. They will have a start date of training, and they will have coaching throughout the year each month with their mentor coach from TFA.
All right, thank you for that. My one question on this is, it's not specific to this particular one, but just in general, because I know we've had agreements with Teach for America for many years now. And my question is just in general, do we have a sense of how many of the folks that go through this program remain in the district after it was a 2-year commitment?
So there is a 2-year commitment. I don't have that number for you, but I could get it for you. I have been working closely with Sarah Diggs, on this project, this contract, so I can get that for you by tomorrow. But the hope is that with us also partnering with Teach for America and doing some retention efforts district-wide, that they will want to stay for that extended amount of time.
Okay, yeah, I was just kind of curious as to we need the help now, so this is good for the 2 years that they're with us. But I'm just kind of curious, do people make the decision to stay with the district after that, or do they move on? My understanding is they're often moving on, but I am wondering if there's, success stories in this, of it's not only helping the immediate need, but it's also people coming in and remaining teachers in the district.
So I have talked to Sarah about this as well. So she and I are going to partner and talk about how we can retain them and do some supportive things as far as on the district side, so that they will want to stay.
Okay.
Beyond that time.
And Sarah has joined the call, so I'm going to let Sarah, if you don't mind, have Sarah Diggs give a little insight. I was going to share a little bit more information, but Sarah may be able to answer those questions. Sarah?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all. So I do have a little bit of data. The last year that we had core members in New Haven was back in 2021. We do have core members, first-year core members in the district now, but the last year that we had them for the full 2 years was back in 2021. 92% of those core members from 2021 did stay to teach for a 3rd year in Connecticut. There are currently 140 Teach for America alumni living in the city of New Haven, and there are currently 21 Teach for America alumni working particularly in New Haven Public Schools, just to give you a little bit of data.
Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yep.
Great. Anything else on this item?
I do want to just add, one of our goals as far as the recruitment effort is to ensure that we are targeting individuals that live in this community, that want to work in this community, and are committed to the students of New Haven Public Schools. And so I think that's why our success rate is going upward, right? And so we're, again, what Rolanda mentioned, we want to tap into the Teach for America recruiting pool early. We want to have our administrators interview these candidates in hopes to do early onboarding for these candidates, because we do believe that if they want to be in New Haven, we want them in New Haven, and because we want our students to see individuals in classrooms that look like them. So that's our goal, to want to get this through F&O sooner, so we can again start the process to early onboarding.
Sounds great. Well, thank you very much. And we'll move on from this, and the next item, two items look like they'll be very quick. One is just looks like it was correcting must have been a small typo in the number, going from 897,218 to 897,718 for the LULAC Head Start Fay Miller Center. And so this is amendment 5.1. Is that the case, Ms. Diaz-Valencia?
That is the case. You're correct. Just a small typo.
Okay. Small typo, but I'm sure they want their extra $500. So, okay. And the next item was, this is just simply changing the funding lines. For 5.2, an amendment to the agreement with match. And this is just splitting the funding sources to different funding sources without any change in scope. Is that correct, Ms. Bonato? Is that, or somebody else can speak on that? Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Okay. And we'll move on to purchase orders. First one is with Tucker Mechanical for cooling tower, Mr. Aline.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. This is going to be a request for purchase order. Just bear with me. I'm on the move and using my phone, so I'm just trying to be on the call and look at the document at the same time. Just give me 1 second here. So from subworks of routes at $138,000, funded through the SLURF funds and submitted to the F&O committee for approval.
Okay. The only comment I have on this one is I'm not seeing anywhere what school this is going to.
Hold on 1 second. It's going to co-op.
To co-op?
Yes.
So my recommendation would be, Ms. DeMayo, is that's just added in the subject for this item, that it's for the replacement of existing cooling tower at co-op that has reached its end of life. I think that would be sufficient. Although to be thorough, we should probably also change it on the just the cover memo, just to add that in, because I don't see it there either. And
it's in the regarding section up top. It says that cooperative art school.
Ah, there it is. Okay, I looked right past it. Okay, so that's fine. So if we could just add it to the description, Ms. DeMayo, that'd be great. All right, so seems pretty straightforward. Next one, 6.2, is a purchase order under the GSA contract with Signactech. Mr. Brown? Or is there somebody that can speak on this? So I looked over the information, and I think I understand what they're wanting to do. They do list the quote and the information from, there is a letter from Michael Simeone on explaining this. So I think that answered any questions I have, and I didn't receive any questions before the meeting from committee or board members. So I'll just note to everybody that there is a memo that outlines exactly the rationale for this and how it was, and the cover memo talks about how it was selected, which was through the state contract. So I'm fine with this. So we'll move into change orders. Change orders 7.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 0.5 are all largely the same and are related to snow removal. So maybe we can talk about those as a group. Mr. Aline, Mr. Aline.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. As Mike Carter had presented to the board a couple of weeks ago, we have already gone past the limit of the snow budget. We are still calculating the exact need at this time as we are looking at invoices and whether the services that were provided were sufficient and whether the invoices should be fully paid. But we will need at least a 20% change order. So we're starting with that today and submitting for all contracts to FNO for approval.
Thank you. So, I mean, I think this is pretty straightforward. We were expecting this was going to happen. Both you and Mr. Carter have warned, both when the board originally approved these, that this would happen if we have any significant amount of snow or ice treatment needed. And we've had extensive reports on how snow is going this year. So I don't have any further questions. I just think there might be questions at the full board meeting. Recommend somebody's there to be able to respond to those. Although hopefully if there were questions, we would get them ahead of time so that people would be able to have the information handy to be able to do that. So I don't have any further questions at this time. So thank you. So we'll go ahead and move to 7.6, which is a change order with Tucker Mechanical. Mr. Aline.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Change order under contract 21916 with Tucker Mechanical to increase the funding amount from $350,000 by $70,000, which is 20%. And an amount not to exceed $420,000. This is our boiler and heating repair contract. We're looking for these funds to take us through the next 60 days, which is what we're estimating we're going to need for continued heating.
Okay, and so just for anybody watching or listening to this, members of the public, etc. So this is the on-call contract that we have with Tucker Mechanical, which is separate from various other specific contracts we might have with Tucker Mechanical. For instance, the purchase order 6.1 that we previously discussed. This is for the on-call boiler repairs. So this is when if there's an issue, something's not working, they're called to come in to take a look at that, fix the problem, etc. And the on-call contracts allows for labor and needed parts. But then when there is larger work that's needed, then there's a separate contract issued so that it doesn't draw down the on-call. Am I correct in that?
That is 100% correct, Mr. Wilcox. Thank you.
Okay, so, all right, I had no further questions on this, so we'll go to change order number 1. So this is item 7.7, which is a change order. This is regarding the Martinez Playground installation. Mr. Aline?
Thank you, Mr. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Mr. Wilcox, Mike Carter. Mr. Aline is on military duty, so I agreed to step in for the next day or two until we bring the new ED on board while he's in transition. But this is a project we brought to the board last month. There was some questions about timelines and change orders because we had brought it also in November. But fortunately, we met with the assistant Superintendent Viviana Camacho and her staff and got more clarity on the project because in the past, the previous project manager and COO did not have discussions with the assistant superintendents or the principals about the location of the playground or what type of furniture is going to be in the playground. So we've been able to straighten that out. What's really critical is that this change order move forward, not only at this meeting, but also at the next full board meeting, because if it doesn't move, we will not have the opportunity to negotiate with the contractor to get the playground installed by the end of April. We have the equipment stored, but without having a executed contract, the contractor is not going to make any commitment. And if we don't have that commitment, we'll have to carry it over till next year and use funds from other areas. So it's really critical that we get this project in, and also we will have time to negotiate with the contractor in case there's liquidated damages where we could pay after the project starts. So it's really important that we move this forward to this committee and also to the full board, because this is like the third time we brought it to the board.
Okay, thank you for that. So I have seen and read that there's a new cover memo that does outline this. It seems to me that it answers the questions that I heard at the last full board meeting, the last board meeting where this was discussed, at least the questions that were regarding this particular project. I think there is also some interest that was expressed there about, how playground decisions are made and what future plans are. And I do know that there is a playground section of the Citywide Building and Stewardship Committee meeting that has on the district stewardship report that outlines planned playground projects that are in the works. Mm-hmm. So I do know that there is some of that information there about what other ones are in planned.
And now we know we have to get the assistant superintendents and the principals involved from the planning, because when we heard the project, they had no communication, no knowledge of what was going on. And there were some hiccups there that we had to work through. So it's unfortunate, but we know it's a lesson learned in what we have to do on playgrounds moving forward.
Yeah, I believe that, if I'm recalling correctly, it was also exacerbated because this was Head Start funds. And so there was some timelines that things needed to happen due to the Head Start funding requirements that also might have exacerbated that. But yes, I think it's always good to consult with school staff at the school where a playground would be going. This does also explain, and looking at this, that it's one of the older K2 playscapes is going away, and this is going to be installed in its place. So that, I think, was one of the questions. One little thing that I did notice is that in the first sentence, this says that this was originally approved by the board on May 13, 2024. And I believe this was originally approved by the board on April 22nd, 2024. And that it was the May 13th approval was for a different playground at Brennan with the same vendor. So that's one correction I would make, is that it was actually, I have it down as the April 22nd, 2024 was the original approval.
Okay, we'll change that.
So, all right. I had no further questions on this one. Thank you for the explanation. And that's the end of the action items. And so I will move to the full board. The one MOU, the one agreement, the two amendments, the two purchase orders, the 7 change orders. So we'll consider those moved to the full board. We'll move into discussion items, the first one of which is a staffing guidelines update. And there's no name listed as a presenter, so Dr. Negron or Ms. Red-Hannons or?
Yes, that will be me, Mr. Wilcox.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to need Dr. White's help. So White, let me know when you're ready. Thank you so much, Dr. White. So I wanted to take an opportunity to remind everyone as it relates to the staffing guidelines study or report that the district had embarked upon back in March of 2023. So it is fitting that now we're in March 2025. So wanted to share with you and remind folks about what that entailed. So in the next slide, you will see that back in 2023, there were a total of 43 positions that the district had examined. So these were the 43, ranging from principal and the assistant principal position, all the way to PE teachers, special education teachers, nurses, restorative practice coaches, custodians, security, etc. And what the district did on the next slide, Dr. White, looked at guidelines pertaining to different national associations which stipulate how many of these positions should be allocated based on enrollment. So the district looked at recommendations as it relates to enrollment in elementary level, as well as enrollment at the high school level. And from there, you can see that it will tell you in terms of FTEs that should be considered depending the size of the school, again, based on enrollment. So again, the district did this practice for all 43 positions. So as you can see in the next slides, it's just going through the same process for all 43. Then what happened is that last year, I'm sorry, Dr. You can stop right here. At the end of that report, basically the district back in 2023 said if we were going to provide the staffing based on the national guidance, clearly we would have needed back then 709 additional positions, which equated to a total cost of over $55 million when you consider the salaries along with the benefits. And then a year after going through that process, which you will see in this next slide, in that March 2023, it captured how many positions were needed. So for example, when you see here, special education, right, we're saying we need 30 of these positions just in the area of special education. 8, for example, in security personnel, 16.5 in social workers, 6 additional psychologists, 11 school counselors, 17.5 multilingual coaches, 38 full-time positions in the area of English as a second language teachers, and so forth. So that was the analysis that was done. In fiscal year 24, trying to chip away in terms of the gaps that we have in staffing, there were a total of 10 positions that were added to the budget. Again, fiscal year 24. And that included 5 in the special education area and 5 in the bilingual teacher area, for a total amount of 10 positions for the total cost of $750,000. Then in this academic year, now fiscal year 25, we also added 4 security guards, which resulted in a total amount of $180,000. So again, these were the positions added fiscal year 24 and the positions added in fiscal year 25. So far in 2 years, we have only added 14 positions out of all the ones that were captured in the study that was conducted in 2023. So this is the update. There's still a lot of gaps. But again, we know that we have been mitigating budget deficits due to underfunding, and we have not identified yet what we will add for fiscal year 26, already knowing that most likely we're going to have to mitigate close to $18 million. But again, I wanted to take this opportunity to give you an update on where we are as it relates to our staffing guidelines and our ability to work towards closing the gap. Questions?
Yeah, the one question I have, if we could actually, Dr. White, if we could go back to the original 2023 slide that laid out the full picture of the gap. So the next one, where's this. So is this information that's listed here? This is from 2023?
That is the information from 2023.
So my recommendation would be just to have an update to this for 2025 that has the current gap. I know you had it on that information, but it's like one would have to look at multiple charts in order to get the picture of where we are now. And I think that it really tells the story, or it helps tell the story. And in fact, I would append this to the budget presentation, because when people talk about the needs in the district, this is where it boils down to is, so, for instance, if we have questions or concerns about, just pick one of these STEM teachers, if we have questions or issues around test performance, et cetera, for this area, we know that we need 35. We might have added a few since then, but we still need more than 30 of these folks in the districts. And I think that that's just one example that's there that shows that when we're talking about the dollars are big, and it hides the fact that they're attached to hiring people to do the work that's needed. And I would also just say, it'd be interesting to know what this would look like for Wilbur Cross High School as an example, because recently looking at the comparative per pupil funding that Hamden High is able to have versus what we're able to provide for Wilbur Cross, there's almost $10 million difference between if we had their per pupil funding, we would have more than almost $10 million to be able to hire I imagine Wilbur Cross needs a couple of these 35 STEM teachers, and maybe one of these security folks, or two of these security folks, and a social worker, et cetera. That's real people in real buildings doing real work, not just numbers. So I would, my one recommendation would be just to kind of have this is where things are now, that kind of stands alone for this.
So based on that, Mr. Wilcox, we will take this slide. We will minus the positions, the 14 positions that are on the next slide, and then we will label this one 2025.
The other thing that I would also probably add to this is that there was, in the original 2023 report, that was done with a committee. I believe it was led by Ms. Red Hannons, that also included representatives from our unions that worked very hard on determining, based on experience and things like industry standards, how many social workers should, what a caseload should be, how many math teachers one should have, per number of students, et cetera. So I maybe would also just retain that information from the original report, that this was a large group of people that worked on this, and it's not just something somebody made up. It was like a team worked hard on this.
We do plan to link the entire original presentation as an appendix to the budget proposal.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you for this. I think it's I think we'll continue to do this every March, just to take a look at where things are, just to keep highlighting that we're working at a deficit anyways when we're talking about what our funding is able to provide currently. What we currently have is nowhere near to meet the need, and the children of New Haven deserve this. They deserve what the kids of Hamden and other cities get. All right. Next item is an update on the facilities study that's ongoing. Just wondering when we're going to be able to see the results of that.
So we have been working with Perkins Eastman, and they're getting closer to being able to provide us the updated report. I was actually hoping that I would have it last week, but that was not the case. But again, it should be coming within the next few weeks or so. I noticed that Mr. Carter is no longer here with me, but he did assure me that we should be getting that soon.
Yeah, I believe this was the time period it was supposed to be done anyway, so they're not behind or anything. It's
Correct.
or if there are, it's not significantly. It's okay. I think that'll be important to also have is just something as part of the budget discussions moving forward. 9.3 item is an update on the COO hiring.
Yes, that will be me. So the position for the Chief Operating Officer was posted back in November 5th, 2024. At that time, it was posted on Applitrax and also on Connecticut REAP. And since it was posted, we did receive a total of 27 applicants. 2 of those were internal, 25 were external applicants. All candidates were screened, which resulted in a phase 1 interview of 4 candidates. Unfortunately, the interviewing team did not recommend any of the candidates for further consideration as a result of that phase 1 interview. So on January 26th, the COO position was also posted on Indeed because we wanted to expand the outreach. And at that time, 42 candidates applied. However, only one of those candidates had experience. That candidate was scheduled for an interview, but unfortunately, the candidate was a no-show and didn't even call. So that person is out of the running. The other piece that I wanted to mention is that I already had an inkling of how difficult it would be to try to find a COO, but I also have been expressing concern of the fact that our COO is responsible for multiple departments, inclusive of security, food services, IT, transportation, and facilities and operations. So 4.5 months ago, I had actually shared the vision for developing a director of facilities job description so that we could have our own person dedicated to the work of facilities, knowing that we have had so many challenges. So again, that started 4.5 months, to be exact, on October 17th. On October 28th, the job description was sent over to the city personnel director, where we asked for approval for the position to be an executive management position. On November 8th, we heard back a recommendation that it needed to be considered for local 3144 management union. So on November 13th, the job description was revised and resubmitted to the city so that it could be reviewed and approved for the local 3144 management union. Again, that was on November 13th. On December 10th, a new draft of of a job description was received from the city. That then went over on December 6th to Local 3144, and they requested additional time to review the job description. So that was on December 10th. That time was granted. On December 28th, we sent our responses to the questions that were submitted. On December 31st, a response came back that they had additional questions. On January 8th, our HR director picked up the phone and engaged in a conversation with the Local 3144 president. That resulted in the ask to consider a supervisor of facilities instead of a director of facilities. We said we will consider whatever. We just want somebody dedicated to do the work of facilities. So on February 3rd, the city then said there is no such position on file. A supervisor of facilities does not exist. On February 6th, we heard back from union leadership expressing concerns about the education requirements. We said, fine, we're open to suggestions. On February 18th, we considered those recommendations. We looked at them. We added them to yet another revised director of facilities job description. Finally, on February 28th, it was approved. So we finally have a job description that is approved for a director of facilities. It is now in the hands of the city because it is a civil service tested position. We now have to wait another month, March 26th, for the board to consider it, hopefully approve it, and hopefully, I'm losing track of months, we will finally be able to post for a director of facilities. All of that to say, it has been exhausting trying to get the necessary supports that we need to do the work and address the challenges that we have in our district. I have not lost hope. I am hopeful that the Civil Service Board will approve the mutually agreed job description that has been written so that we can finally post, we can finally get a director of facilities while we continue to look for chief of operations. That completes my report on the COO.
Thank you. We kind of moved from a short story into an epic, kind of an epic there in terms of the challenges, but it does sound like things are on track. I wholeheartedly agree that there's a need for something, someone in some sort of position related to this to help a future COO manage a lot of these facilities related issues. I think that is very needed. I'm very supportive of that, and hopefully that this is going to move forward. I would just ask that you please advise us when it is actually posted so that we can see, and if it's not, so in the first April meeting would be the time point. It sounds like that's the first possible time point when it could actually be posted is by the April meeting.
Correct.
Okay. So hopefully it is fast-tracked as much as it can be at this point once it's, like the first possible date that it's posted. And with all these changes, this is still going to be a position that's of use, right? This is you said it's mutually agreed upon job descriptions. So the duties and everything are going to be work that's needed, et cetera. So,
Absolutely.
okay.
Desperately needed.
Okay. So my question is, going back to the COO position, we're starting from scratch on that. Is there an interim COO now that my understanding is Michael Carter is done, moving on. There might be some overlap with, or might be available remotely for some number of days, but that's ending. Is there an interim COO or a plan in place for?
There will be a plan that I'm going to be bringing forward to you shortly.
Okay.
In the meantime, though, we do have Mr. Carter, who is continued to support us and be committed because he wants to leave us in a good place. But I do have a plan that I'm going to be proposing shortly.
Okay. I look forward to hearing that plan. All right, those are the questions that I had. Thank you for the update, and thank you. I'm sure it was not just you, but probably Ms. Flegler and maybe others that were also working through the process with the city and with the bargaining unit to get this done. So thankful that everybody has worked on that and glad that it's finally closer. Next two items. Next one is the discussion calendar. I'll just note that the discussion calendar is there. We only have one more meeting listed on the discussion calendar, so we will have a new discussion calendar for the next 3 months or so at our next meeting. If people have things they would like to have on it, please send that to me and to Dr. Yarborough, and to the superintendent and Ms. DeMeo. Listed for March 17th, in addition to our regular financial report, we have listed a restroom report, just as we had one of these a year ago, just about the state of things. If that needs to move on, move them to the next meeting, the first April meeting, I'm willing to do that. So those are the things that are there. My hope is that people see things on the discussion calendar and prepare for it so they're ready as those dates get closer, and they advise us if things need to move, if there's a good reason for it. Any comments or anything on the discussion calendar? See none. Finally, Series 3000 policies. Just I had a good meeting. I'm blanking on her name. Is Jocelyn. I think it's Jocelyn Galen, who is the new intern working with Ms. Jackson and the governance committee. Just talking about Series 3000 policy backlog that the governance committee has, that they're going to be taking a look at that maybe as early at their meeting, which is the last Thursday of the month. So in just under 4 weeks, they'll be maybe looking at Series 3000 policies. Recommend if these are the ones, some of the ones that we've sent in previous months or year to governance committee. And since that is happening, it's time for us to start looking at some more Series 3000 policies. I think our transportation policies will be next. So I will be working with Ms. DeMeo to post the group. There's about 8 different CABE model policies for Series 3000 for transportation. So we'll have those posted and discuss at our next meeting how we're going to move forward, updating those policies. So I think transportation seems like the good next ones to do. Any comments? All right. Final item is motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Hope everybody has a good evening. Good night.